Something very unusual started happening over the last week. US military fighter jets were engaged multiple times in air combat against unidentified flying objects above the United States and Canada. And that sounds insane, but unfortunately, it's not. That really happened. Now, what would be insane is jumping to brash conclusions about this phenomenon, like labeling it as an invasion by aliens or communists. The fact is that as of right now, we really don't know what those planes shot down, but we are trying to find out. So let's try and cover the basis on what we do know about this mysterious floating invasion and what that might mean for the future. This is the space race. First, let's trace this madness back to the start, where all roads begin at the so-called Chinese spy balloon. Now, to be fair though, we know that this was a balloon. We know that it was carrying an electronic payload underneath, and the Chinese have confirmed that it did originate in their country. China denied that it was a spy balloon. They're saying that it was a civilian science experiment, like a weather balloon that had flown off course. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the presence of the balloon in America was totally accidental. Now, it's difficult to really get a sense of scale for just how gigantic this balloon was. US government officials have placed it at around 200 feet in height, and it would have been carrying two equally gigantic arrays of electronic sensors and devices, each one about the size of a school bus. For scale, your average hot air balloon is going to be about 75 feet in total height and around 55 feet across, so about 1/3 the size of the Chinese balloon. The balloon entered Alaskan airspace on January 28th, flying at an altitude of around 60 to 65,000 feet. This is double the height of your average passenger jet. It drifted down through Canada and re-entered the US over the state of Idaho. It then continued on a path southeast and left the continental US through the Carolinas on February 4th. At this point, it was promptly blown out of the sky by a Sidewinder air-to-air missile fired by a US Air Force F-22 Raptor fighter jet, the debris raining down over the Atlantic Ocean. This was the first ever air-to-air engagement for the Lockheed Martin F-22, an advanced stealth fighter jet that has been in service for nearly 2 decades. Shooting down balloons is not likely what the weapons manufacturers had in mind when they designed this particular fighting machine, but it did a great job. The Raptor is one of the very few airplanes that would have been able to engage a target at such an extremely high altitude. The US Navy and Coast Guard are in the process of recovering that debris and shipping it out to the FBI's high-tech forensics laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. Luckily for them, the water off the South Carolina coast is relatively shallow. They've been able to recover the balloon shell pretty quickly, but the electronic system will be a challenge. The missile didn't explode the balloon, it just kind of popped it, but the plummet from 60,000 feet into the surface of the water would have shattered any solid components into little bits. It's going to take a little while still before we can definitively say just what that balloon was carrying and what it was doing, so we'll just leave it at that. The fallout from the surprise balloon visitor did encourage NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, to increase the sensitivity of their sky monitoring radar system. They adjusted the software filters and algorithms that comb through radar data and increased their ability to detect smaller objects that are floating with the current of the wind. Of course, when you go looking for weird floating objects, you're gonna find weird floating objects, and this change in radar sensitivity led to a wave of UFO detections by NORAD beginning on Friday, February 10th. This new crop of aerial intruders was met with significantly more decisive aggression than the first balloon. On Friday, the US military shot down an unidentified flying object over the Arctic Ocean near Alaska. Again, an F-22 Raptor was deployed to intercept with the Sidewinder missile and racked up kill count number 2. For the record, each one of these AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles costs around $400,000 US, so this is gonna get expensive real fast. We know that recovery crews for this object debris are working out of the community of Deadhorse, which is on the northern coast of the state. The weather there is currently around -30 degrees, so it's going to be incredibly difficult to recover whatever that was. From what we've been told by US officials, the object downed over Alaska was much smaller than the balloon and flying at a lower altitude of around 40,000 feet. White House spokesman John F. Kirby said it was roughly the size of a small car. Kirby didn't call this one a balloon. He said, quote, "We're calling this an object because that's the best description we have right now. We do not know who owns it, whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned. We just don't know." Then on Saturday, yet another UFO was detected in the north, this time over Canada's Yukon territory. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau immediately put the order to NORAD to shoot down the new object, and again, an American F-22 engaged with a Sidewinder missile and blew it out of the sky. This part can be a little confusing. Yes, an American military plane responded to an order from the Canadian Prime Minister. No, that's not weird. That's the whole point of NORAD. North America is an absolutely gigantic landmass, and the land border between the US and Canada is the longest in the world. We don't have time to worry about territory or jurisdictions. In the case of an airborne threat, whoever is closest will just engage immediately, whether that's an American or Canadian fighter. It doesn't matter. Yes, Canada has fighter jets, they're just not very good. We have a much older variant of the F-18 Super Hornet, but the government did just put in an order for 88 Lockheed Martin F-35 stealth fighters, and we hope to see those begin delivery in a few years. Then we'll blow up our own UFOs. Anyway, what is weird is that both Canadian and US officials have described the object over the Yukon as cylindrical, again saying that this was smaller than the Chinese balloon. We know that some balloons can be kinda cylindrical, like a Zeppelin or a blimp, but it could have been something else entirely. We don't know. Prime Minister Trudeau gave a statement about the growing UFO problem over the northern regions, saying, "Obviously there is some sort of pattern in there. The fact that we are seeing this in a significant degree over the past week is a cause for interest and close attention, which is exactly what we are doing. We've deployed significant resources here to be able to recover the object." Again, this debris would have come down over an incredibly difficult area to access. 99.9% of the Yukon is wild, rugged forest and mountains. Most of it is still probably unexplored by human beings. Sasquatch lives up there. It's going to take a while to recover little bits of exploded UFO. And then, yet again, on Sunday, another UFO was spotted. This one above Lake Huron, right on the border between Canada and the US. Again, fighter jets were scrambled for what was becoming a routine UFO takedown. This time, the humble F-16 got the opportunity for some air-to-air combat and dispatched the latest flying object with another Sidewinder, another $400,000. In an even stranger turn of events, this latest UFO was described as an octagonal structure with strings hanging down from it, but no discernible payload, and this one was flying at just 20,000 feet, making it extremely dangerous to commercial air traffic. This was really not good. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of an octagon-shaped balloon. So, what the hell are these things? Aliens? Probably not. As great as that would be, on Sunday, the US Air Force general overseeing North American airspace said he would not rule out aliens or any other explanation, although another US official said later there was no evidence that extraterrestrials were involved. So, are these more Chinese spy things? Probably not that either. When Joe Biden finally did get around to talking about this whole situation, he was able to sum up the preliminary intelligence that the government is working with. Biden told reporters, "We don't yet know exactly what these three objects were, but nothing right now suggests that they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country." Talking specifically about the three UFO objects that were shot down over Alaska, Yukon, and Lake Huron, Biden said the intelligence community's current assessment is that these three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research. He went on to assure the American people that there is no evidence of any sudden increase to the number of objects in the sky. So, what does that all mean? Well, the simplest explanation would be that following the spectacularly overblown public discourse about the quote-unquote Chinese spy balloon, North American leaders got kinda antsy and more than a bit trigger-happy. I guess it's maybe a bit like potato chips. Once you blow up one mysterious floating object with a multi-million-dollar aerial weapon system, you just can't stop. Even the Canadians got in on the frenzy, and we're usually very good at not blowing things up. Either way, Biden says that he's going to speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping about the whole ordeal, and judging from Biden's tone, they're going to try and stand down on the hostilities for now. Biden said about his anticipated talk with Xi, "I hope we are going to get to the bottom of this, but I make no apologies for taking down that balloon." Biden added that the shoot-down sent, quote, "a clear message that the violation of our sovereignty was unacceptable. We will act to protect our country, and we did," end quote. And the subsequent UFO massacre has also sent a pretty clear message to anyone operating any kind of floating equipment over North America, be they recreational, research-based, or some other private data collection. Make sure and tell the government that you're putting a thing in the air or they'll blow it up and probably send you the bill. I thought for a second about why. If these UFOs were private research balloons, why didn't the rightful owners come forward and let everyone know what's going on? But then I realized they probably don't want to put themselves on the hook for the cost of a Sidewinder and the overhead involved with scrambling an F-22. Apparently, the Octagon over Lake Huron took 2 shots. There's $800,000 in missile cost alone owed to the US taxpayer. I guess the most important takeaway here is that NORAD will be introducing new protocols on how they identify and respond to small objects flying around above our heads, which is actually pretty reassuring. Obviously, new technology is making it easier and easier to fly around a little robot and cause all kinds of mischief. It sucks that they weren't already doing that, but better to change now than later. But what's your biggest takeaway from the spy balloon turned UFO saga? Is this a bunch of pre-Cold War espionage, or did we just get super worked up and fire off a bunch of missiles over nothing? What did we really learn? Meet us back here every week for more updates on everything aerospace industry and interstellar exploration related. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up today if you liked it. That really helps us out for real. And subscribe to the Space Race for more videos just like this. We do 1 long-form essay and 1 news update every week. And if you'd like more, we've got 2 more on the screen for you right now.